Once again, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Thank you for joining. Welcome to another session of Azure Power Lunch. As you know, that we record our calls and we place our recordings on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. And with that, our topic of discussion is some of the recent Azure Logic App updates. So here is a quick agenda, and we have a demo packed session today. We're going to be a quick spend 1 minute on Logic App, what they are, just to do a level set, and then we will talk about some of the Logic App updates, which are either GA or public preview. And they include ability to run your .NET code inside your Logic App and support for enhanced support for App Insights. We will take a look at that. And then ability to resubmit from an action. Um, that's in public preview. So first of all, what is Logic App? Logic App is Microsoft first-party product which allows you to build workflows in the cloud. Basically, you can build your Microsoft microservices by composing and combining other microservices. Okay, so that's what it allows you to do. You can uh, uh, combine. You can. It's a low-code, no-code product. Full supports full CI/CD. You can use Visual Studio Code to build your workflow on prem and then deploy. Okay. So what is this activity that we are or update that we are talking about? As you know, that you can have a Logic app workflow, and you can from that workflow you can call an Azure function. That's there's an activity available that allows you to do that, um, and you can definitely take advantage of it. But what we are talking about is we are talking about the ability to embed your .NET code. And at this moment, it is .NET Framework code. .NET Core support is on the way. You can uh, 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 use it inside. You can use a function, basically create a function and use it inside your workflow. You don't have to make an HTTP call outside, all of that. Okay, and it kind of opens up to some very interesting scenario. Let's say you have some complex business logic and you don't want to host a separate function to do that. You can do that with this approach. Okay, so and then we are going to talk about some of the enhancements that have happened in support of App Insights for Logic App. So now they're more consistent with what is workflow ID, what is workflow name, things like that, and all of that information is going into the App Insights, and you can track your activities better. So it's all about I have a very complex workflow, how I will correlate those activities. So that's where it comes in. And finally, um, there is support for resubmitting an action. So this has always been a challenge where you have a workflow that fail, how you resubmit it. Because if you resubmit the entire workflow, there are activities that may have happened that kind of a cause problem. You know, if they kind of uh, create duplicate data or things like or create business data inconsistency. With this one, you can start from the failed activity and onward. Workflow is smart enough to do that now. Okay. So we will take a look at all of those. It's a demo heavy session. So I'm just going to quickly jump into the demo. Any questions? Okay. So first of all, what we are going to do is I'm running Visual Studio and I'm going to close this workspace because I want to start from scratch. By the way, the documentation is really good on this one. So I would prefer to look at the documentation before uh, kind of running this just to make sure that you have all the prerequisite. It needs .NET SDK 6 or above and um, function runtime 4 and above. Okay, so please make sure that you have all of the prerequisites set up. Otherwise, as things may not go as smoothly, and you may end up like me, kind of thinking like, what's going on?" So, with that, so let's first of all, let's start go to the Azure side. I mean, if Hopefully you're signed in into Azure and all that. And then this is the new extension. So it's happening all through a Visual Studio Code extension. And let me talk about it for a second. You should have the Logic App Standard extension. This is the one I'm talking about. Logic App Standard, not the consumption one, standard. And you should have the latest version of that. That is needed for this thing to work. Got it? So let's go in here and before we do that, let me just do something. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here and we're gonna say create new Logic App workspace, and it's gonna ask you which folder you wanna do it. Just type in the folder name and let's give it the workspace name, and we're gonna call it workspace. Okay, and let's take this name, enter. What is the function name? Final, and these are arbitrary names, and I will explain it to you what's happening once we get to the code. Okay, did that stateful workflow, and what is the name of the workflow? This, open in the current window, give it a second, voila, it has created. Look at that. There are two in the workspace, there are two entities. One is your logic app and one is functions. And these are your functions. So they create a temporary function with some fictitious weather information. And that's a good thing because what they're showing you is like, hey, this is a sample. You can either delete that sample, keep it, whatever you want, or you can build on top of it. Okay, all of these things are um, that you can do. So this is the sample code that has been generated. You have a logic app, and then you have this function that you can use that to call from the logic app. And we're gonna make some changes to kind of put our stamp on this function. So we're gonna call it. Okay, that's that. And once you have done that, let's go in and um, save it and terminal, new terminal. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna open a terminal in the function here, and we are going to do a .NET restore. Yeah, I saw that question go through Logic App scale out option. The thing is, this is not the session to cover it. Probably we'll cover it in a later session because they have too much stuff already we have to cover. So I will have to apologize. Okay. So let's do a .NET build, and here we go. So it's gonna build all your projects and everything, and give it a second. Yes, everything is built. Okay, how you know that it is now built the right way? Go into the lib folder, and you should see the name of your function and a function.json, and you should see that same thing here. Okay, all of those libraries, everything is now deployed here. So everything is good now. What we're gonna do is first we are gonna debug this function, and we're gonna put a breakpoint here, and we are gonna go in first view command palette, and we are gonna start these services. First the blob service, and just make sure you pick logic apps when you're running the blob service, then go back to command palette and same thing. So repeat for all of the three services. Okay, got it? All three should now be running. You are now ready to go. So let's cross our fingers and we go to the debug. And there are two steps, and you have to do that in this order. First, pick the logic app and start it. So now your logic app is running. In a second, you will see information popping up on your screen about the debug. Give it a second. And Come on, output. Yeah, so here it is. The output information. Ignore these messages. I have too many extensions installed. So that's why. So it is generating the symbols. Give it a second. And it's the demo thing. Whenever you're doing a demo, always these things tends to be a little bit slow. Okay. See. Okay. So it's now executing task to start the function host. Look at the runtime 404685. This is the core function because a Logic app runs on top of function host. So that's the one. Okay. Any questions in the meantime? Okay, give it a second. Come on, pick up the pace. So you should basically what you should see is you should see Logic app running, and that's you should see. So it hasn't happened yet. I'm not sure what's going on, but in any case, okay, give it 1 second. Okay, so here we go. Logic app is running. Congratulations. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we are going to run. Okay, so let's stop it and run again. Okay, so let's run the Logic app one more time. Okay, let's run the function app. Let's see what happens. Sure, what's going on? Okay, I'm gonna go back to the Logic app one more time to see. Okay, so these are the.
And while it is running, hi, Navin, do we
Yes.
have a portal version for this?
No, not yet. This is
Okay.
only for VS Code right now. Good question. I was about to come to that. Yes, there is no portal version for this. Okay, so hold on 1 second. Stop debugging. Come on. You see, that's the interesting thing with the live demos. Things normally don't, sometimes don't go as, okay, that's fine. Let's, okay, so let's go back. So we are back to square one. And let me just for the sake of, let's do a build again. Okay, and let's make sure we have the build in the right place. Okay, and yes, it's everything is there. So let's go in and let's debug it one more time. Um, we have started debugging. Hopefully, we get a better luck this time. It seems like it's going faster than last time. Sorry, folks. I just wanted to show you this is kind of very cool thing. So that's why I'm like spending some time on it. So please bear with me. Yeah. Okay. So this is running now. So Logic app is now running, and let's do the function app now. Okay. And we started the function app as well. And yes. Okay. So everything is seems like it's functioning and everything is going on. So now let's go back to our folder and let's go back to our workflow. And what we're going to do is we are going to do overview. And what we're going to do, we are going to, I mean, you can open the designer as well, but let's run this workflow. Okay. So let's run it. Okay, succeeded. So let's see what that looks like. So you have this is only three parts. You have an HTTP request received, then you are calling a function, and then you are sending a response. Got it? So basically, it's a very simple workflow, but you can make it as complex as possible. You can add more functions into it, call it. You can create more complex functions. Everything is in your control. The point is that now you don't have to go out, create a separate function, create, and then you have to worry about those HTTP boundary, how to secure it, all of that. Everything is in here. Okay. Yes. Right now it's support only for .NET framework, not .NET Core, but .NET Core support is coming. It's a public knowledge. Okay. So that's that. Any questions?
So Naveed, will you touch base on how you will apply security on this one? It's Imran Saber from Oz Digital Consulting.
Yeah, so basically, what you have to do is just like you do for Logic Apps. So there's nothing different. You can, since the function is inside Logic Apps, it's not exposed. You cannot call this function directly. It can only be called through this Logic App. That's it.
Okay.
Got it? So
Yeah.
there is that's the cool thing that there is no security surface that is exposed. Okay. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to deploy this. Okay. So I'm going to go in here, Azure Logic App, deploy it to Logic App, and what is happening? And it should show up where I need to deploy. Okay, this is the folder I'm going to use. This is my subscription. And where is that? This is my, and it will deploy. Okay. And here's the thing. It will take a minute or two to deploy. We don't have time. So what I'm going to do is I already have a Logic app that I have deployed, and I'm going to go to that. So this is the Logic app. This is exactly the same one. I did not change anything there. Um, and look at let it come up. Look at the workflow. And if I go into the workflow and go into the designer, give it a second, let it come up. So this is your workflow. Look, same workflow. I can even change the properties. If I want to change some things there, I can do that. Okay. And all of those things are here. So what I can do is I can go into the overview and I can run this directly. I mean, this is just testing. So we are running it, and look, it has called.
So
And if
what are the
you,
limitations in terms of runtime, memory, and so on? So what how how long a code can run within
yes,
the function before it fail? Do you have it?
yeah, I think as far as I know, there are some limitation. I think it's either 10 minutes or 60 minutes. I know it's a big number, but I don't exactly remember from document.
Okay. I bet the actual response will be waiting for that response to come prolonged, or just the run itself will be timed out. Oh,
Yeah,
when I say the run, I'm talking about the function run.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
function run can only run for 10 minutes, I think. Yeah. It's in the doc. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Hello?
Yes,
can all.
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Sorry. Sometime my headset. So yes, I think I don't exactly remember. I think it's in documentation. It's either I know it's 10 minutes or actually the documentation is here right now. So this is the documentation. Hopefully everybody can see it. I think there are some limitation. Where are the limitations? The function can only run. Yeah, limitation isn't available from portal. .NET Core support isn't there yet, but there was something about how much time it can run. So I will have to look into it. Sorry. Yeah, 10 minutes. Process that takes more than 10 minutes to run. It's not recommended. You can run more than 10 minutes, but if that is more than 10 minutes, then probably you need to break it down or do something. Got it?
So Naveed,
Fantastic.
wouldn't it be controlled by the Logic apps itself? Like when the HTTP request times out, won't you be able to control
Depends
it?
on, yes, exactly. I mean, it may not be a HTTP function. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
in the sample it's HTTP. May not be HTTP. It may be reading from a queue and then doing processing. So how about that? Yes, for HTTP you have to obey the limits of HTTP. Okay.
Okay. So
That's
coming back to the function itself, sorry, I'm asking too many questions because it's very exciting. I see the potential. What is the roadmap to handle the other type of runtime, like the Java or Node.js,
based on
particularly?
the public information. They are looking into it, but there is no timeline, man. I'm sorry. So they are looking into it, but there is no timeline. So definitely, according to them, this is the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there are no timeline for dot. But that's there are no timelines that they can share at this moment. Okay.
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 Final question before I let anybody ask question. How is the logic app that function is exposed to external doing, for example, some
No, it
egress
is not
calls?
exposed. It is not exposed. That's the
So
thing. That's the goal of it. That it
okay,
is not exposed, except you cannot call it anywhere except from this logic app.
but that's can you do an egress call, or he has to do egress call through another action?
Yes, yes, you can. I mean, you can call something else, but you cannot call it from anything else. And sorry, I have to jump on
Okay.
other topics as well. So yeah, please, I will be there after. If you want to stay on, I will be happy to address your questions. So no problem at all, but I have to jump there's some other content. So okay, so now we go into logging. So what we are talking about, if we go in here into the app insights, there is a lot more information in app insights that used to be before. So there are three key tables that are there. Okay, one is traces. So traces, like if we just quickly look at it, come on. Okay, if we just run it, so you see all the information, um, all the traces. Remember the logger that we were using? All of that information is coming up here. Look at that. This is our Azure Power Launch log. So now you can log information from inside your workflow. See that? That's and the second part is the request. So the request now will have all the request information that you have for your workflow. So any request that is coming in, you should be able to see this information here. Okay. Where this is going towards? Basically, this is about, all of your tracking your entire activity. You may have very complex workflows, and their workflows, they may be calling other workflows. That will now you should be able to track it end to end with all the information that is available. Okay, and probably we can do just a single session, and 30 hours, 30 minutes may not be enough for this entire app insight support. You know, the how much detail there is. So absolutely. But this is I'm just touching the surface just to make you aware that is there. There's a link there towards the end. Please take a look and see how it can help you track more appropriate, I mean, more broadly, your logic app. Okay. So with that, before we come to any more questions, let's look at another feature, which is to restart your activity, from an activity. So this is my very simple workflow, and it is a fictitious one. I am putting a message in a queue. Based on that, it will call a web API, get some data, and then send me an email. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I have this web API. Where did my web API go? Okay. Just give me 1 second. This second. So let's go to the store first because that's where we're gonna. So I am going to go into home. That's fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to stop my web app. Okay, to produce the error. So what I'm gonna do here, give it a second. I'm going to stop the web app, and the web app is stopped now. Now I'm gonna go into my store, into storage browser and put a message in the queue. And let me get the message JSON since I don't want to type it. So this is so whenever you are doing a demo, things tend to slow down. Give it 1 second, let it come up. So what we're going to do is we're going to send a message to a queue to wake up this workflow. So this is my queue. This is here. I'm going to add a message. This is my message. And let's send it. Say OK. So message is sent. And now we are going to go back to our workflow. Okay. So let's go into the overview. Our workflow should run. Give it 1 second. Let me refresh it. So there is like a 30-second, I think, delay, which the way it checks the messages. So let's see, we should have a failed workflow here. Okay, yeah, this workflow has failed, and let's see why it failed. Okay, so in the meantime, let me just start my web app. Second, let me see, it's stopped. Yes, so give it 1 second, let it start. 1 second. So yes. So let me start it. So now the web app is starting. It will take a minute to start. In the meantime, let's take a look at the workflow. So as you can see here, the message arrived, it passed the JSON, and then it failed here. Just keep in mind, it has to be a stateful workflow. It has to be a standard workflow. It has to be in a failed state before you can start it to do that. So let's now go in here, right click, submit from action. Okay. So now what it's gonna do is it's gonna rerun this workflow, and hopefully, if the app service API is back, you will see this workflow complete. If it doesn't complete, we can rerun it. So hopefully, let's see if the API is back, then it should complete. And you will see once it's complete, it will not start from the beginning. It will pick it up right where it failed. So it will be able to use the output from the previous activity and run it. Got it? So that's the key thing here. So this is very important. Right now, you cannot do it from CLI. You cannot do it from VS Code. You have to do it from UI. So this is currently in preview. So this is where you have very complex, large workflow where you may want to go in, and if a workflow fails in the middle, you may want to restart it. So uh, that's where you can take advantage of it. So hopefully, let me refresh it. Yeah, look, the two, and look at the color. The kind of dull green is succeeded. The next three is are actually ran right after the JSON is parsed. So you see what I'm saying? The first activity, the two activities were not, it will not rerun those activities. It will only run the activities when you say resubmit from there. So that's that. So with that, that's all I have to talk about. Please, if you want to stay on for question, I will be happy to address those. Otherwise, hopefully, I see everyone next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch.
So Naveed, can I ask a
Yeah,
question
yeah,
here?
please, please,
Yeah,
please,
you
please.
already mentioned that it's not available restarting the flow from CLI right now, and then it's still
Yeah,
under preview.
that's right.
But how do you see this, implemented once it's deployed and all that? That how will you identify where to start from,
Yeah, I
or is
mean,
it built in?
basically, I mean, one way to start from is like you will have some sort of way to check where your activity fails and then
Mhm.
automatically restart it. So large workflow, let's say that you are taking data, processing it, sending to another system, then doing something with it, getting data from somewhere else, and then moving on. How that will work, let's say it breaks in the middle. And now you have to either roll back everything and see what happened where, or you can just say, okay, restart from there. It will, since it will start from right there, use the previous outputs as usual and complete it. So that's where I see it. I mean, especially in the think of, I mean, it's more of the BizTalk functionality, you know, the
Yep, yep.
BizTalk used to do it. So that's where I think it's more of parity on that side of things.
Correct. So from coming from BizTalk background, we know that we had the long running processes, and we used to tell our customer, even if you pull the cable out of the server, we can start it
Yeah,
from
that's
where it.
that's where it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some other technique which you can apply maybe for guaranteed delivery because it's happening over the HTTP. But overall, thank you very much. It's a great session. I mean, I'm really excited to tap into all of this.
Thank you. Go ahead, Julian. You have your hands up, please.
Yeah. So, just a suggestion. So, is it possible to use the until or any conditional run to or any conditional action to be able to restart the fail action? Maybe we I don't know if it's already possible to bake that in. So, if it fail, you can restart that from that point.
Not at the moment. I mean, right now, not in
Okay.
the preview. I think in the preview, they are just like, hey, look at that and provide us feedback. So, as I mean, and the other gentleman said that there are the, I mean, what are the possibilities? So, yeah, there are. I mean, feel
Okay.
free to provide them feedback. So, whatever. But at the same time, in my opinion, it has to be outside of the workflow. Because if it is inside the workflow, let's say that thing fails. You see what I'm saying? So if it's
Hmm.
outside the workflow, then basically what you see is you have 10 workflow runs, three failed. Okay. I just need to start three workflows. And you
Oh,
have a
oh,
process that kind of resubmit them from the same action where they fail.
okay. So one of the I know you I don't I know we are just talking here loud. One of the things is if it's failed, it can have you can have a fail path where you said if it fails, send this message with your run ID.
That's
I
an
don't know.
exception. That's an exception. That is already there today. So if there is an exception, you can, I mean, I'm not using an exception here. You can use an exception and you can do that. So that's available today, I think. You can do
Not
that.
to run the specific action. So you from an external, I'm saying to send that to an external
Oh,
workflow
okay.
that will restart the workflow at this point. But yes,
Probably.
but
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
very
the
excited with everything you shared because they are very beautiful and it was needed for Logic App. Yep. You want to say something? Sorry.
no, no, no. And Julian, I really appreciate your question and thank you for your patience. I know, it's like there were a lot of topics I wanted to cover. So thank you for keeping your question to the end. I really appreciate it. But that's good question. Yes, I think I'm really excited about these things myself. And I think this thing has a lot of potential. So let's see what's in the box. Any other questions, folks? I know we are a bit over time, so thanks. Okay, folks, thank you very much for joining and hope to see everybody next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch and have a great rest of your day and great weekend.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.